Hey guys, back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we are back with a Misfortune updated complete guide, of course, for our latest patch. As usual though, before we really get into it, don't forget to check out Misfortune's basic guide for her skills, living order tips and tricks, as well as some combos. I'll toss that up in the cards above right now for your easy reference. But let's get straight into the video. So you can see that the items, it's honestly pretty straightforward, right? It's basically you're just going for full lethality with how much damage MF has nowadays. Um just going for full lethality is just going to be amazing. You can even go into lethality boots as well, something like this. So you could go for like lethality boots, which give you 10 armor pen, into Dustblade for another 18, and then 10 from Collector. We have another 15 from Serpent's Fang and 8 from Edge of Night. So really, Vitality is the name of the game. You just destroy them with the damage, right? So Dustblade also, of course, gives you the Night Stalker passive, which gives you a bonus on your next auto attack every once in a while. But this also procs on Misfortune's Q, right? So this is pretty much Misfortune's first item all of the time, because this just increases her Q damage tremendously, even going for crit builds and things like that, which we'll be covering in the coming days. But even going for those kind of builds, you also want to go for Dustblade first item. It's pretty much Misfortune's best first item. Then we go for Collector. Now Collector is a really good item for Misfortune simply because the Death and Taxes passive is actually very good for MF. And the reason for that is because her ulti does a lot of instances of small damage. So any one of these could hit someone to below 5%. In fact, even her E could hit someone to below 5% and proc the Collector, which is why Collector's passive is actually amazing on MF. The other champion being Samira. And then in this case, we're actually going to go for Seralda's Grudge. You could also go for Maul Reminder if the enemy team has a lot of healing, but Seralda's Grudge gives you that slow, which of course helps you hit your ulti. So with the Seralda's Grudge, your ulti is actually a lot more useful when a lot of the time, people just walk out of the ulti. Obviously, no one wants to stand inside of the MF ulti. Then of course we have Serpent's Fang, which number one counters shielding, which is pretty much in every game nowadays, but even if there isn't, the stats you get from Serpent's Fang is just amazing as well. And then lastly you have Edge of Night for the safety, 250 max health, and the spell shield as well. Now you could swap this out for another like pure defensive item if you prefer, but honestly 250 max health from the spell shield is honestly pretty decent when it comes to a defensive option, right? So for the runes, you always want to go for empowerment slash PTA. I've seen some people like taking first strike. Let's take a look at the top players here. We do have 2 people taking first strike, but from my own extensive testing playing MF over the course of months, I found that first strike is generally the inferior option to empowerment, because if you have no spells and stuff, you have you have a lot of downtime and you can't do anything. Whereas with empowerment, your autos will of course do a lot more damage, stacking with your passive as well, and become a lot more useful. Brutal, of course, because you're an ADC who auto attacks, and then you have Giant Stare to counter the tanks. You have Alacrity for more attack speed, as well as Bone Plating for the defensive capabilities. And then for your summon spells, you want to go for Flash together with Cleanse against CC. If you don't need Cleanse, then you can go for Barrier or Exhaust. But with all that said, now let's move on to talking about the gameplay. Alright guys, so let's take a look at the gameplay. Before we jump too far into it, of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Any questions, queries, remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Of course, I'll be sure to address them. So, MF, if you guys taken a look at my latest tier list, now I have not updated the tier list for 6.1a, only 6.1. Of course, we do have some jungle changes and things like that. I'm not sure. I don't think I'll update it for 6.1a, but I think I'll probably do it for 6.1b. So, over here, we do, of course, have a Leona with us, and I think MF works very very well with engage supports like what you see here. You get a lot of like engages, and you can lock people down, of course, for you to hit your Q, for you to hit your ulti. Just very very beneficial in general. So MF, if we take a look at my tier list, is I ranked her in the S tier. I do think she's a very strong ADC, and the only reason why I think she's very strong is really just purely because of her damage, right? I think she does an insane amount of damage. Like her Qs hurt in lane, her Qs hurt in the late game. Even games that you kind of feel like you're not doing very much damage, when you take a look at the damage stats at the end of the day, you end up doing a lot, right? So I've been surprised by MF's damage in many matches, both as and against her. So I've concluded that MF is in a really good spot right now. So MF really has 2 viable builds at the moment. So the first one is what I just showed you just now, which is the full lethality build, and the second one is going for Dustblade into crit items. Right now, both of these builds are amazing. Both of them have their place in the game. Now, I personally think the best way to play MF is to play her with the lethality build against a generally squishy team. Now, this enemy team I would not really describe as very squishy, right? Like, of course, we have the carries who are squishy, Orianna and Caitlyn, but you do have two bruisers, which of course are Riven as well as Aatrox, who aren't exactly squishy, although I wouldn't describe them as tanky either, right? Because they are fighters, they're not fully tanks, they're not fully squishy either. And then you have Galio, who's either gonna be squishy because he's building AP and has first strike, or if he builds tank, then he probably is gonna be somewhat tanky. So what I kind of wanted to show here is that even though you don't have the most ideal situation, even building lethality against a team that has a couple of fighters and a tank, or what could be a tank, even that works as well. So that just kind of proves how strong MF is. Now here Gather kind of whiffs the engage. We are able to basically auto attack him down. Now he's getting out of the way. We can't quite reach him, and instead we're gonna go for Caitlyn instead. But there's an overchase from Leona, and she ends up dying. I'm able to get the kill on Caitlyn at long last, but Galio has taken the fruit, is back to high health, not high health, but enough health, and takes me out. So overall not too good, right? So we got a little bit overzealous there. Like we got a very good trade, and we decided to chase down for the kill, but we committed everything. We couldn't really get the kill, and the only reason why we even got anything back in the first place is because the enemy team went back in on us, and we were able to kind of trade here and there. So not really the best in the world. Now the only good news here is that me and Caitlyn are still on even ground, and in fact I'm gonna have a lead against Caitlyn after I take all of these minions. So the goal of course went on Galio, who picked up 2 kills, which is not exactly good news because he's building AP. It appears he has mana boots and he has an M tome, so AP Galio can one shot. So that's going to be definitely that's definitely going to be a concern, right? At least later on when he gets a couple items. For now, it's not too bad. Early game Galio is not really the most threatening. Now here you can see I'm just trying to remove his first strike, right? So here, the ulti comes in from MF. I try to hit. LT comes in from Leona. I try to ulti myself, but it doesn't quite hit. Now, here, Caitlyn's 1 HP. I don't get the bounce on her, and we barely manage to finish off the kill on her. Thankfully, she doesn't escape this time. Yeah, but this has been a match of very, very close calls, all across the board. So here, unfortunately, I run straight into Riven as I'm trying to get a ward down. We do a lot of damage to Riven before we actually die, so this allows my team to clean up and get the kill onto the Riven. And yeah, in the end, it's a trade. It's a 1-for-2 trade, so I think I'll take that. That's not the worst in the world. We actually have a really decent lead against the MF now, because unfortunately against the Caitlyn now, because unfortunately the Caitlyn has not really been getting the kills, whereas I've got 2 kills, so I'm kind of on my way. So here, I decide to go for the lethality boots just because lethality boots make your lane so much stronger. Let's look at that poke where 1Q like chunked Caitlyn for a quarter of her health, even with bone plating up, right? So imagine if she didn't have bone plating, that would be a lot of damage. So we're gonna try to do that right now. Look at that. Like that hit her for like half of her HP. We don't even have Dustblade yet. So just the Dirk lethality combined with the lethality from the boots just destroyed her there. So here MF is me. I don't know why I keep calling Leona MF, but here she gets off. Leona gets off in the ult. I try to combo into my ult. We do get off a little bit of damage, but not a ton. And both of them live on 1 HP again. But this time though, we do have a wave to get access to plates. So this time we are able to pick up a total of 3 plates. So even though we didn't get the kills, we are able to pick up the plates. And with that, I have enough for Dustblade. So I'm gonna get a reset right now and get the Dustblade, and then rotate back to the lane. So here you can see that my team has gone the Herald, and a fight is breaking out at the Herald area. Leona is joining the fight over there, and I'm just running straight back to lane to kind of save my tower, ensure they don't get a bunch of tower plates. So here, I don't want to fight them. I ideally don't want them to kill me on the tower either, so I'm just trying to clear the minions while staying safe. Since Leona is on vision, with Aatrox there, this is a very viable dive for them. They could have, dived me with Galio tanking and Caitlyn trying to kill me, but thankfully they decide not to go for the aggressive play, and Galio actually rotates with his ultimate, I believe, or just rotates down. So here now, I'm stuck with Caitlyn 1v1, and obviously we know that I'm like 1k plus gold up on Caitlyn, and I'm gonna win this 1v1 if she chooses to fight me. So here, I just shove the wave in. I'm rotating over to the dragon. This is a little bit of a dangerous rotation because the enemies are here, so I'm just kind of backing off. I need my team to enter the area so I can kind of connect with my team. Here, Galio tries to go in on me. Um, I'm getting chain CC, so I'm gonna have to cleanse out, and then I launch my ulti over the wall, which is gonna evaporate the Riven. Not before they secure the dragon though, so Riven does end up copping a death there, but they do secure the dragon. Lysandra unfortunately is in my lane, taking all of my minions, and yeah, here we're going to get the tower most likely because I don't think Caitlyn can defend the tower by herself. And overall, my team is doing pretty well. I do have a 2k gold lead against Caitlyn, and so far all of my team kind of have leads against their lane opponents, with the exception of Zed, who is 1k gold down on Aatrox, who is 4-0 at the moment. Make that 5-0, killing the Zed right then. So here, the enemy team is obviously going for my top tower. So once again, I'm here to defend my top tower. At this point, I am halfway towards Collector. I do a really decent amount of damage, so it's not going to be so easy to dive me with Leona. Here you can see I'm doing decent damage to Aatrox. The Leona ult comes in. You can look at the damage against Aatrox and Caitlyn, by the way. Just trying to get off as much damage to dissuade the enemy team from coming in as possible. And Riven, unfortunately, is now coming from behind as well. So at this point, if we're 2v4, we can't really take the fight, so we're just kind of backing off. Our team though is now rotating, and now Riven is running away into our jungle, and we're using the strut movement speed to see if we can kind of catch up and help. We don't want to run into Riven ourselves though, because that will lead to us just dying. Now that she's been engaged upon and CC'd, we can finish her off with the kill going over to Lysandra. Now Aatrox is now coming in. Ulti goes onto Aatrox, into my ulti. I channeled the full ulti onto Aatrox. Unfortunately, I'm only able to pick up the Galio and not the Aatrox. Aatrox, in fact, picks up a kill on me. Caitlyn picks up a double, but does get assassinated by Zed. Aatrox now 5-0-2 at this point. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the kill on him, but it looks like he's gonna go down here 1v3 with Tryndamere picking up the kill onto him, and Tryndamere now getting very fed as well off of that shutdown. Now that shutdown actually gave me an assist, which actually gave me enough to pick up the collector. So now I'm at, of course, my 2 item power spike. Of course, with lethality builds, you are a lot stronger in the early game, and of course MF not really the best scaling champion either. So we are definitely in a very strong spot now at 2-3 items. But of course, in the later stages of the game, we can easily get outscaled by champions like Orianna here. Even Caitlyn, if she reaches like 4 items, will end up kind of outscaling MF. Of course, the name of the game here is to end the game quickly before you get outscaled, and or to maintain a lead large enough that you don't actually get outscaled. So here, Riven, has a possibility of diving me, so I have to kind of ditch the tower and let them take it, because I don't want to lose my life for no reason. Now here you have a huge fight in mid lane where Tryndamere gets taken out already. I'm trying to see if I can join my team and try to at least get some people out of dodge, right? So here, Leona popping the W, trying her best to run away. I'm just kind of escorting her out. I don't want to, obviously we don't want to overcommit to a fight because we already have a couple of members dead, so we definitely don't want to be fighting here. But we don't want to, just like let Leona die for free. So here we finally are able to get the Leona R into MFR combo, where we basically just one shot 100-0 the Orianna. However, Aatrox came in from the side, and I have to pop my cleanse and my flash to escape from him. He is gonna just one shot me in a combo. He's 6-1-2, really fed. Doesn't even have his second item yet because he's decided to go into a Executioner's Calling to cut healing. So here Aatrox tries to go in 1v4, right? And you can't do that. So Aatrox here gets chain CC'd by everybody. All of these CC just hitting onto him, and he just ends up dying. He does pick up the Triforce now though. And here he is, of course, going to be a keeper on the enemy team. And with the dragon coming up here, we are at a slight advantage with Aatrox not being on the map. He's still dead for 15 seconds. However, our Zed, who is our jungler, is backing when the dragon has spawned, which is just not a very good idea, right? So this means that, the Aatrox is going to be able to revive as well. And he's going to be able to kind of interfere with our attempt to take dragon. So here, A fight breaks out. I'm trying to get damage onto the Riven, who is their jungler. Riven has to flash out of the way. Gallo is caught in no man's land. He goes down, and Aatrox is now kind of getting caught himself as well. Just coming off of his revive, he is gonna go down again. And here, unfortunately, I'm trying to chase the Caitlyn in. Orianna with the flash ulti pulls me into the Riven ulti, and Riven ends up getting the kill onto me and getting a reset as well. The 1 HP Riven, ends up basically murdering me, and yeah, not too good. So in the end, it's a 2-for-2 trade in the grand scheme of things. My team still trying to pick up the dragon. Tryndamere is now running down the enemy team. Zed secures the dragon with the smite. Lissandra, yeah, really questionable play there, ends up going down. At this point, I have my Seralda's Grudge finished, so first 3 items are completed. Of course, I could now just E into R with the slow from the Seralda's Grudge, and I'm not as reliant on other people to kind of course, use their CC for me. Of course, that is still more ideal because a stun is going to be better than a slow, or a root is going to be better than a slow, but of course, the slow on Seralda's is really, really potent and does, of course, help you to get off your ulti damage without needing someone to lock people down for you. Because really, in this case, of course, you do have Lissandra and Leona, who are very good at lockdown, but the other 2 champions basically have no CC. Now here, Aatrox, we force his ult out, and we are good with that. We can just leave. Orianna now doing very decent damage with her 2 completed items. Engage goes in from Leona. Here I'm just ulting because I know Gallo is going to land there, and he's going to take a lot of damage. Look at that damage onto Gallo. Gallo nearly gets 1 shot. If he didn't have the Randuin's Omen, he definitely would have died there. Now I take a bunch of damage from Caitlyn ult as well as the poke from Orianna, and I'm now really, really low, so I don't really want to stick around. I want to recall and get out of there. Now I will say one of the main weaknesses of this build is that if you don't go for the Gluttonous Grease, which I didn't in this game, you have completely no lifesteal, right? Because Duskblade, Collector, all the lethality items as well as Serala's don't give you any lifesteal at all. And if you go for Alacrity like what I did, you're not gonna have any lifesteal whatsoever. So here, Gallo goes in. I'm gonna have to cleanse out. Orianna ults me. I'm 1 HP. I'm just gonna flash out for good measure because I see Riven coming in. I'm thinking she's gonna ult me. Now in the replay too, you can see she doesn't actually have her ult up until now. But of course, in the game itself, you wouldn't really have known that. So just best to flash to safety. Only myself and Tryndamere are up, and Baron is up and available. So I was thinking the enemy team probably is going to go to Baron with 4 people up, but we have that area pretty well warded, so we can of course see them doing that. Now the issue here is that we can see Aatrox is zoning any of us off the Baron. So here, Tryndamere is trying to go in on Aatrox. I'm getting vision onto the Baron. The Baron is still really high on HP. I was trying to ult over the wall to steal it, but there's nothing really to steal at the moment. Now instead, I end up getting chain CC'd by the Aatrox and the Galio, and I end up just dying straight up. In the meanwhile, let's take a look at what my team is doing. A full-on fight is breaking out. Tryndamere pops the ulti, is trying to escape. Does actually end up surviving, and another fight is breaking out on the other side. However, my team is losing the fight because without me, my team doesn't really have DPS, right? Of course, you can see here, Zed can easily take out 1 person. Lissandra with her full burst combo probably can also take out 1 person. But without myself and Tryndamere in the fight, there's no real DPS at all. So my team is going to struggle quite a bit with that fight. Because, of course, you need some constant damage in the fight to, of course, win it. Whereas on the other team, all of their champions kind of have decent DPS, right? Like you have Riven and Aatrox, who do have decent DPS, and then you have Orianna, whose cooldowns on Q and W are really low, and Caitlyn, of course, is the ADC. So they don't really face that kind of problem like us. But for us, of course, when two of the champions use all their spells, they're basically semi-useless in the fight already because they can't really do very much else aside from their spells. So here, getting a little bit caught out here, and I'm getting a little bit caught out by Riven. I have to pop my QSS instantly to cleanse out the Riven stun, and then the Riven gets CC, and I'm able to ult her down for the kill. And now with those 2 random picks onto the enemy support and jungler, we can actually now start off the Baron because there's no enemy smite to contest us, and we are able to indeed secure the Baron. Now Dragon is going to be coming up. in just a little bit. So we don't necessarily need to contest this dragon. We can actually just use the Baron to push. We don't even need to go for the dragon because it's not sold for either team. I'm gonna reset and pick up my Serpent's Fang. And but of course, most of the time people do fight an objective, so it does look like my team is going to go for the dragon, except Lysandra, who is split pushing the other side of the map, which is completely fine. She's attracted the attention of 3 people here, giving us a free dragon, and also of course getting in the push on the other side of the map is great. Now with the pressure that she is creating, I'm going to split the opposite side of the map. So you can see the enemy team is now mostly in the mid lane, defending basically nobody. So I'm just going to push in. I see them now moving to top, so I'm going to go mid to join my team. Where a fight is kind of breaking out there. We can see 4 people, everybody other than the Aatrox, in the skirmish in mid lane. And the minions are going to get the bot lane tier 2 tower, it appears, and it does. So now Riven is now split from her team, but my team is kind of all split as well. So we're not really trying to fight. We're mainly just trying to push. So we are trying to push on all 3 lanes. And they all end up collapsing on Zed. So here we have 2 options: keep pushing mid or try to help Zed. There are 5 men on Zed. So here I saw a really good angle to ult there. So here, just look at this ult. I basically murdered 2 people instantly, Riven as well as well, whoever it was. But anyways, here I now have the damage to just kill everybody left, and with that we get a clean ace. And I guess we made the right decision here, because with that clean ace we are able to just end the game. So I'm gonna leave you guys with these stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.